Hello, and welcome to the Fantastical Magic of Carbon, Part 2. Are there any more secrets within this can of carbon? I would say over 1 million. Carbon can form over 1 million compounds. Let's start with the basics, though. This is an old grain mill. It's got a corkscrew in the center and a grinder plate. You can adjust the tension on the grinder and you clamp it to your surface here, your working surface. All right, now, Chad, we're gonna throw a little charcoal in there. This is our willow charcoal from last time. Just put it in there. Coarse ground. You could run a screen and get the dust out, and you can keep putting this back in here and grinding it, get it as fine as you want it. If you're making black powder, at some point there's a process using what's called a ball mill to make it an ultra fine powder. We don't need to do that, especially with the wind out here today. What we're going to try is using it to clean up tap water. I found that the closer this catch pan is to the wheel, or you can bring it up in height and get it real close to the wheel, it'll capture the dust a little better. Otherwise, the dust just blows right away. It's ultra fine. The first diesel engine ran on coal dust. Looked about like this, but coal is not the same as charcoal. Coal comes out of the ground. It's compressed over millions of years to a similar state as charcoal, but it ain't the same. It's very abrasive. And Rudolph Diesel, he got that engine running on anthracite, or whatever coal they were using, but that's where he invented that engine. But it scritched up the valves real bad. So they tried to use an oil and found that was a better fuel. Now, one thing you can use the charcoal for is get some color to your epoxy. That's an epoxy resin there, and let's see if it'll add a little color and texture to it. A lot of carbon black is basically lamp black, like if you get the soot off a candle, it's super fine. Anyway, let's see how this mixes around. Definitely will thicken up your epoxy a little bit, give it a little color. Kind of like a homemade JB weld. I used the clear epoxy to fix this winding for some medical equipment repairs I was working on. Had to put new bearings in that little devil. Think it slowed the reaction down, yeah? Slowed it right on down. No, it it did slow the reaction down, but I think by tomorrow it'll be pretty strong, and it certainly would make a good black paint. Okay, the next thing we're going to test is the ability of carbon to purify tap water. We're going to do a comparison between Van Alstyne, Texas tap water, distilled water, and Van Alstyne, Texas tap water filtered with this carbon. I've heard that natural carbon makes a very good absorber of chlorine, and we're going to check that here in a moment. Van Alstyne tap water. This instrument checks the conductivity, and it takes a few moments to register. It'll show conductivity and temperature. Now the temperature is 10.6 degrees Celsius and the conductivity is a whopping 1139 microsiemens. That's 3 to 4 times the national average in terms of water quality. There's a lot of salt in this water, a lot of minerals. Let's double check with distilled water to make sure our instrument is correct. (11.6), 1.3 microsiemens. 11.6 degrees Celsius and 1.3 microsiemens. So Van Alstyne tap water has 1,100 times more stuff in it than distilled water. Distilled water can be anywhere in the low 0 to 10 microsiemens range. Let's see if we can clean up the Van Alstyne tap water using some charcoal. Now we're going to check the chlorine content and mineral content of Van Alstyne tap water. Okay, so just to give you an idea, the Van Alstyne tap water is off the charts on alkalinity and pH. I've never seen one anywhere else turn these colors. And the hardness isn't too bad, but the alkalinity and pH is just way high. And the chlorine is, that's pretty typical for residential. It's a little high on the chlorine, but not anything extreme. Let's write these numbers down and keep going. So I've got about a third of a mason jar of willow charcoal and about 300 milliliters of the Van Alstyne tap water. I'm just gonna mix the crap out of them, shake the heck out of it, and then use the filtration. I'm just gonna shake it, you know, and then filter it later. All right, here we go. I like to keep my fingy over the lid. Learn that little trick at Safety Clean. Oh wow, look at there. Well, this is going to take a while. I'm going to have to filter it several times, and we'll check back in a while. Okay, it's been about 5 hours now, and I've filtered many times. I think 4 change outs of the filter, and I would add layer after layer of filters. I think there's 4 coffee filters in there. So it took a while to get all that carbon dust out. Let's check our carbon filtered water versus plain tap. Little bear, don't eat that. All right, let's look. The conductivity is 2001. That is high. So our carbon filtration didn't do much for the conductivity. Let's check the conductivity of the tap water. While little bear eats my test strip over here. And that one is 1415. So neither of them were very good in terms of conductivity. So it doesn't look like charcoal pulls out any of your salts that are water soluble. And let's check the chemistry test strips. Tap water. And now let's do the carbon filtered test strip. Then we'll compare the two. Okay, here is a great comparison. On the left, we have tap water. On the right, we have carbon filtered tap water. Look what it did to the chemistry. It completely removed the chlorine. The other components, it actually seemed to raise the hardness of the water, and the alkalinity is about the same, which is just really off the charts. It looks like it's like 500 parts per million or more. And it looks like it even darkened the pH. I mean, that's got a pH of like, I don't know, 9 or higher. But the one thing that carbon did effectively do was take out the chlorine, but it didn't remove any of the salts, and it didn't change the pH of the water in any favorable way. Now, weird looking, huh? Last but not least, my 3-step plan for styrofoam. I heard that styrofoam, or polystyrene rather, can be, which is basically styrofoam, can be charred in a similar way and reduced into a carbon type substance. I heard that carbon substance made from styrofoam is not good at pulling chlorine from tap water, but is good at removing organic compounds from tap water. So, listen up. Listen, people. There's too much styrofoam, and states like Texas are never going to outlaw it because we're too stupid. So it's up to the federal government to do something smart. Step 1, we have to come up with a federal program to collect clean styrofoam. This is clean enough, but you know, if it's filthy, that's not going to work. So we need to collect all this crappy styrofoam. Step 2, we need to make it into the carbon char, and that can be done with a thermal power plant. You can burn this stuff, and with the right engineering, it won't emit as much fumes as you think it would. The fumes get pumped back into the flames. You could even have a steam power plant running off of it if you needed to. And you create this carbon char. Then you take that carbon char and you make water filtration tanks or ponds using that carbon char to pull organic molecules from badly polluted areas such as Flint, Michigan, where the water is just too toxic to do anything with. That would work. Some places are too screwed up to even fix, and it's just going to take a long time for the groundwater to get better. But this is one thing you can do with styrofoam that'll make the world a better place. That's it for today. Peace out.